My parents forced me to quit college to fund my brother's dreams, so I built my own life and now they regret their choice. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've always been the second choice in my own family. Not the golden child, not the screw-up either, just the spare, the backup plan. The one they leaned on when things got inconvenient. We weren't a wealthy family. Lower middle class, scraping by in a rented 2-bedroom house in a neighborhood where sirens were more common than silence. But we had enough to survive, at least on paper. My parents always said they were doing their best. Maybe they were, but their best always seemed to go to my younger brother, Sean. Sean was the golden one. Athletic, charming, always the center of attention at family gatherings. My mom used to say, Sean's going to make it big someday, like it was prophecy. My dad called him our ticket. I was never jealous, not at first. I just kept my head down and worked. Got good grades. Kept quiet. Didn't get in trouble. I was the first person in our entire family to get into college. Not a fancy one, but decent. In-state, with a partial scholarship. I remember the day the letter came. I ran into the kitchen, holding it like it was a winning lottery ticket. My parents didn't even look up from the TV. My dad mumbled, "Good, that's what you were supposed to do." That was it. No celebration. No dinner, no proud hugs or teary eyes. Just silence and the sound of Sean talking on the phone in the next room about his soccer tryouts. Still, I convinced myself it was enough. That maybe they were just stressed. That maybe I'd finally earned their pride once I finished college. But I didn't know the truth yet. That they never planned on me finishing it at all. It was during winter break. I had just finished my first semester of college. I came home exhausted but proud. Finals had nearly killed me, but I passed everything. I even made the dean's list. For once, I let myself hope maybe they'd care. Maybe they'd finally see me. Instead, I walked into a family meeting. We never had family meetings. Not unless something was really wrong. My dad was seated at the table like a judge, arms folded. My mom was pacing, like she was nervous. Sean sat there grinning like he already knew what was coming. I should have known then that I was the only one who didn't. My dad cleared his throat. "We need to talk about the future, son," my mom chimed in, voice soft like she was breaking bad news about a neighbor's dog. Sean's been accepted into the Griffin Sports Academy. That name hit like a hammer. It was a private prep school for elite athletes. Crazy tuition. No way we could afford both that and my college. My stomach sank. Wait, what does that mean for me? Dad didn't even flinch. It means you're going to take a break from school. Just for a while, help out. We need to support Sean's path. It's his shot, I blinked. You want me to drop out? For him? Mom leaned in with that fake smile she uses when she's about to say something awful. Sweetheart, you're older. You'll bounce back. Sean's the one with real potential. This is where we invest. I looked at Sean. He didn't say a word. Didn't thank me. Didn't even look sorry. The decision wasn't up for debate. I wasn't being asked. I was being sacrificed. Like it was obvious. Like it was fair. And just like that, my future was quietly erased. One week I was sitting in a college library, pulling all-nighters over textbooks. The next, I was behind a register at a big box store, clocking 12-hour shifts just to funnel money into Sean's tuition. It happened that fast. No ceremony. No goodbye to classmates. Just a withdrawal form and a quiet car ride home with my dad saying, "You're doing the right thing." I moved back into my old room, which somehow felt smaller now. The peeling posters on the walls looked like relics from a life I'd been forced to abandon. Each morning smelled like burnt coffee and laundry detergent. I'd lace up my cheap black work shoes, head out into the cold, and tell myself this was temporary. That's how I survived the first month, by pretending it had an end date. Meanwhile, Sean was living the dream I had been forced to fund. He got the family car so he could get to practice on time, and suddenly he was wearing designer warm-ups, new sneakers, even a gold chain. I'd see him post photos on Instagram with captions like "grind." Never stops, while I was literally grinding my fingers raw folding shirts and unloading trucks. My parents acted like this was some noble rite of passage. My mom would pat my arm after dinner and say, "You're so mature for stepping up." Not everyone would do this for family. My dad called me our rock like it was praise, but it felt like a collar. No one ever asked how I was coping. No one said thank you. At night, lying in that cramped bed, I started to understand something that chilled me. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't a rough patch. This was who I'd always been to them. the support beam holding up someone else's dream, invisible until I cracked. And I felt myself starting to crack. I tried at first to tell them how much it was eating me alive. I'd come home from another double shift, my hands smelling like cardboard and sweat, and say, "This isn't fair. I gave up everything for Sean." But before the words even landed, my mom's voice would rise like a siren. "Are you jealous of your own brother? After all we've done for you?" My dad would fold his arms and glare, adding, "You're being selfish. We gave you a roof over your head. Show some gratitude." It was like shouting into a void. The more I spoke, the more they twisted my pain into proof that I was dramatic, ungrateful, or weak. Eventually, I stopped trying. My few friends from college stopped calling. At first because of my long hours, later because I had nothing good to say anymore. My phone became just an alarm clock. My world shrank to work, home, and silence. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, my mind buzzing with anger and shame. I'd hear Sean laughing in his room on late-night calls with teammates, the glow of his new gadgets flickering under the door. My chest would tighten with resentment so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe. My birthday came and went like a punchline. Sean got a brand new smartwatch for training. I got socks and a lecture about being responsible with money. My mom smiled like she'd done me a favor. I wanted to scream, but instead, I just went back to work the next day, a ghost in my own life. And deep down, a dangerous thought started to form. Maybe they didn't just overlook me. Maybe they liked it this way. It was a Saturday. I had just finished a brutal 10-hour shift at the store, the kind where your back feels like it's fused into a knot and your brain's fried from fake smiling at rude customers all day. All I wanted was a shower, some leftovers, and sleep. But as I turned onto our street, I could already hear the bass thumping. The house was lit up like a wedding venue. Balloons, streamers, cars parked down the block. I walked inside and saw strangers everywhere, loud music blasting, laughter echoing through the rooms. Sean had won some junior league tournament, and apparently, it warranted a full-on catered celebration. I stood in the doorway, sweaty and invisible, watching my family cheer for him like he'd cured cancer. He was in the center, posing for pictures, wearing a custom varsity jacket I'd never seen before. Platters of hot food filled the dining table. I scanned the room, not a single plate saved for me. Then it happened. A woman in her 40s, dressed in heels and pearls, tapped me on the shoulder. "Can you take this out back?" she asked, holding a trash bag. "And hurry, it's starting to smell." I blinked. "I don't work here." She gave me a confused look and walked away without apologizing. I looked over at my parents. They'd seen it. My mom was stifling a laugh. My dad just said, "Don't be so sensitive." She didn't mean anything by it. That was it. No outrage. No defense. Just laughter and silence. I didn't say a word. I walked upstairs, packed a duffel bag with my clothes, a charger, and whatever dignity I had left. I left that night without looking back. No one tried to stop me, and that hurt even more. The night I left, I had nowhere to go. No plan, just the need to not be there anymore. I texted the only person I could think of, Malik, my best friend from high school. We hadn't talked in months, but when I told him everything in a single desperate paragraph, he replied instantly, "Come through. Couch is yours." His apartment was tiny, the kind where the kitchen touches the living room and the bathroom door barely shuts. But it was warm, safe, no judgment. Just a scratchy blanket, a saggy couch, and freedom. The next morning, I got up at 6 a.m. and went straight back to work at the store, pretending nothing had changed. That night, I signed up for a food delivery app and biked across the city delivering tacos, bubble tea, and late-night cravings to strangers who didn't even tip. I worked double shifts, retail by day, deliveries by night, coming home drenched in sweat, grease, or rain, depending on the hour. My knees ached. My phone was constantly dying. I lived on granola bars and instant noodles, but for the first time in years, no one was controlling me. Every spare dollar I made went into a shoebox I labeled with a Post-it note, "Get out forever." It wasn't much, but it was mine. I still cried some nights, out of anger, exhaustion, loneliness. But at least they were my tears in my space. And somewhere between the couch cushions and late-night street corners, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Self-respect. It was fragile, flickering, but it was real. And I wasn't going to let it die. Most people think food delivery is just mindless hustle. Drop it off, get paid, repeat. And yeah, a lot of it was that. But during the slow hours, I spent a lot of time just waiting. Waiting in office lobbies with marble floors and company logos on the walls. Waiting in back hallways of startups that smelled like burnt coffee and ambition. And during those waits, I started noticing things. Names of companies. Schedules printed on clipboards. Delivery windows. Security check-in systems. People buzzing in and out like clockwork. Every building had its own rhythm, and the best ones, the ones where things flowed smoothly, had something in common. I didn't know what to call it at first. I just knew some places ran like machines and others were pure chaos. One night, I was waiting for a pickup at this sleek tech office. Glass walls, minimalist desks, everyone moving with purpose. I must have been staring at the whiteboard near the reception desk too long because the receptionist, this older woman with kind eyes, smiled and said, "You're pretty sharp. Ever thought about operations or logistics?" I shook my head. "No, should I?" She just shrugged. "You've got the eyes of someone who notices everything." That's rare. That comment stuck with me. That night, after my shift, I Googled, "What is logistics?" and fell down a rabbit hole. Supply chains. Routing optimization. Warehouse flow. It was like uncovering a hidden language I already half understood. I started reading blogs, watching YouTube breakdowns, even signing up for free webinars. Between deliveries, I'd take notes on how systems were run, what was efficient, what was broken. For the first time in years, I felt alive again. Not just surviving, learning. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "Maybe I can build something of my own." It had been 6 months since I left. I had a routine now. Long shifts, online logistics courses, a couch that still hurt my back, and a slowly growing savings envelope under my pillow. I hadn't spoken to my parents since the night of Sean's party. Not once. Then, one afternoon while I was grabbing a quick bite between shifts, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hey, it's Mom." Her voice was soft, calculated, the same tone she used before dropping a guilt trip. "Sean tore his ACL," she said. "He can't finish the program. We had to pull him out." I stayed silent. She went on, "Things are tight right now. We need you to come back home. Help out again, like before. No, how are you? We miss you." Just a summons. I took a deep breath. "I'm not coming back." There was a pause. Then the storm rolled in. "Are you serious right now?" She snapped. "He's your brother. We're family." Dad got on the line, shouting in the background, "You're cold. You've changed. What happened to you?" I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "You don't want me. You want what I can do for you. And I'm done." Click. I stood there for a while, phone still in my hand, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from something else. Clarity. They didn't love me. Not really. They loved the version of me that worked like a mule and asked for nothing. The obedient son. The silent ATM. For the first time ever, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free, and for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't going back, not now. Not ever. About a month after that call with my parents, I saw a job listing that made me stop scrolling. Junior logistics analyst. Entry-level, warehouse ops, no degree required. I barely had the confidence to apply. My resume was a patchwork of retail shifts and food delivery stats. But I wrote a cover letter like my life depended on it, because in a way it did. I got the interview, then the offer. The pay was low, barely above what I was making delivering sandwiches. But it was a door. The warehouse smelled like metal and dust. The first week was chaos. Forklifts buzzing, workers shouting, labels flying, but I soaked it in like a sponge. I learned the software, the daily flows, where things stalled and why. I started mapping the system in my notebook, identifying bottlenecks. By the third week, my supervisor actually listened when I suggested rerouting the pallet sequence. That gave me an idea. At night, I started messaging small e-commerce sellers on Reddit and Facebook groups, offering to review their shipping setups for free or cheap. A few said yes. I helped one guy shave 3 days off his average delivery time. Another saved nearly $800 a month by restructuring her fulfillment. Word spread. Soon, I was juggling real clients on the side, small businesses, hustlers, Etsy shops, and they loved my work. I built a simple portfolio, got referrals, and raised my rates. No one cared that I didn't have a degree. They cared that I made things work better. I still lived on Malik's couch. Still ate microwave rice. But every single thing I was building, the skills, the clients, the confidence, it was all mine. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval. Because I was finally building something for me. 3 years later, I had my own company. It wasn't flashy, no big office, no viral LinkedIn posts. But it was real. A small logistics agency run out of a shared workspace, with 4 employees I trusted and respected. We handled inventory flows and delivery optimization for a dozen steady clients. The numbers were clean. The reviews were glowing. The money? Enough to live, save, and breathe. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with actual windows and a door that locked without jamming. I bought a used car that didn't stall on cold mornings. I started cooking again, real meals, not just cup noodles and gas station burritos. Life finally felt like mine, but trauma doesn't ask for permission before it shows up. Every time my phone buzzed from an unknown number, my chest tightened. Some nights I'd stare at it, wondering if it would be another call from my mom, some new guilt-wrapped favor. On my birthday, I found myself waiting just for a moment for a call that wouldn't come, or worse, a call that did, with nothing but thinly veiled demands disguised as family check-ins. And yet, part of me still wanted something. Not forgiveness, but maybe acknowledgement. Proof that I wasn't crazy for feeling abandoned. A sign that they'd ever really seen me. It never came. I used to think success would heal me, that money, stability, and a company logo would erase what they did. It didn't, but it did give me something else, space. Space to breathe, to choose, to feel pain without being trapped in it. I was still haunted, but I wasn't hunted anymore, and that made all the difference. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, one of those peaceful starts where the coffee tastes just right and emails are manageable. I was halfway through reviewing a client's shipping matrix when my phone buzzed. Sean. Hey, can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. The name hit me like a ghost. I hadn't heard from him in years. No birthdays, no apologies, no acknowledgement of everything I'd given up for him. I replied with one word. Sure. He called an hour later. His voice was lower now, like life had scraped the shine off him. He told me he dropped out of the sports academy after his injury. Tried a few community college classes, but nothing stuck. No degree, no career, no direction. I've been working random jobs, he said. Warehouse stuff, DoorDash. I'm kind of stuck, man. I stayed quiet, letting him speak. Then he said it. The sentence I never expected to hear. I didn't understand back then. I was a kid. I thought it was normal, that you were just supposed to help. I didn't get what they took from you. He told me our parents had always painted me as the lucky one. They said you wanted to support me, that you were proud to do it. They never made it sound like a sacrifice. My stomach twisted. Now he wanted help. A job if I had one, or even just advice. He didn't sound entitled. He sounded tired, human. For the first time, Sean didn't feel like the golden child. He felt like a guy who finally saw the damage in the mirror, and I didn't know how to feel. Because part of me still wanted to help, and part of me never wanted to see his name again. I agreed to meet Sean the next weekend. Not because I planned to rescue him. I wasn't going to hand out a job or bail him out. I just wanted to look him in the eye. See if the apology was real. See if he was real. We met at a small cafe downtown. Neutral ground. I got there early, ordered tea, and waited. When I saw him walk in, I almost didn't recognize him. The cocky posture was gone. His hoodie was worn thin. His eyes looked like they hadn't rested in years. But just as he reached the table, I saw 2 more figures behind him, my parents. They slid into the booth like it was planned, like this was their show. Thought it'd be good to talk as a family, my mom said, setting her purse down like we were at brunch. My dad crossed his arms and got straight to it. We hear you're doing well. That's great. But you don't need to make Sean feel bad about the past. It's time to move on. Sean looked frozen, like he didn't even know they were coming. I looked at all 3 of them. My parents weren't here to witness healing. They were here to contain the damage, to make sure I didn't hold anyone accountable. You still don't get it, I said quietly. You never saw me as a person. Just a tool, a wallet, a fallback. You're being dramatic, my mom snapped. Families forgive, but this wasn't forgiveness. It was gaslighting all over again. I stood up, dropped some cash on the table, and left. No yelling. No speech, just silence. I walked away alone, again. But this time I wasn't confused. I was clear they weren't coming to save me. And I wasn't going to save them either. After that cafe ambush, I blocked all their numbers, Sean's included. I didn't hate him, not really, but I needed space. Not just physical distance, but emotional insulation. A boundary that said, you don't get to rewrite my pain just because you're finally uncomfortable. I ghosted birthdays, holidays, all of it. The silence was heavy at first, like quitting an addiction. I missed the idea of family, not the reality. So I started grieving what I never had. Parents who protected me, believed in me, chose me. It was a strange kind of mourning. No funeral. Just journal entries, tears at 2 a.m., and long walks where I spoke to no one but myself. And then, therapy. Real, uncomfortable, unfiltered therapy. It cracked me open in ways I didn't expect. We didn't just talk about them. We talked about why I still flinched at kindness. Why I apologized when I hadn't done anything wrong. Why success felt like theft, like I'd taken something I didn't deserve. But slowly, I got better. I started volunteering at youth centers, teaching basic logistics and entrepreneurship. I gave talks at trade schools and community programs, telling kids like me that their worth wasn't tied to their family's blindness. That structure, systems, and self-respect could build empires where love once failed. I wasn't some polished motivational speaker. I just told the truth. My company grew alongside my healing. Not fast, not flashy, but strong. And while the scars didn't disappear, they stopped bleeding. I was never going to be the son my parents wanted, but for the first time in my life, I was becoming the man I needed, and that was enough. It had been over 4 years since I last saw any of them. 4 years of peace, boundaries, and building my life brick by brick. I didn't check their socials. Didn't ask around. For once, their chaos wasn't echoing through my head. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message from my cousin Lena. We'd never been close, but she was one of the few relatives who hadn't picked sides when everything blew up. Hey, just thought you should know. Your dad lost his job last month. Your mom's health isn't great either. Sean's been back home. Things are rough, I didn't reply. Just stared at the screen, waiting to feel something. Guilt, maybe? Or pity, but all I felt was distance. Like I was reading about strangers in a newspaper. Then came the second message. They've been asking about you, wondering if you'd be willing to help. They're calling it a family emergency. A family emergency. The same family that told me I was selfish for wanting to finish college. The same parents who let strangers mistake me for a waiter at my brother's party and laughed. The same ones who showed up at a peace offering and turned it into another power play. And now, when their golden boy was floundering and the walls were collapsing, they remembered I existed. Not as a son. Not as a person, as a lifeline, but this time I didn't bite. I didn't reply. I didn't save them, because I finally understood. Their crisis was no longer my responsibility. I'd already paid my debt in full, with my future, my mental health, and my silence. And I was done. I was 29 when I stood on the stage of a regional logistics conference, staring out at a packed room of professionals, some twice my age, some younger, all waiting to hear what I had to say. My name was printed on the banner behind me. My company's logo glowed softly on the screen. A few years ago, I was sleeping on a friend's couch, Googling what routing optimization even meant. Now, we'd just closed a 6-figure contract with a nationwide distributor. Real money. Real impact. One of our newer clients, funny enough, was a high-end supplier my dad once idolized. I remembered him talking about them when I was a teenager, saying how he wished he'd gotten in with a company like that. I smiled when I signed the deal. Not out of revenge. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Because I had done it without their help. No shortcuts. No handouts. No family favors. Just years of grinding in silence, of healing in pieces, of refusing to be anyone's backup plan ever again. After my talk, people lined up to shake my hand. To ask questions. To listen. I wasn't background noise anymore. I wasn't the older one who'll figure it out. I wasn't the wallet. I wasn't the joke, I was me. And I was seen. The validation didn't come with balloons or apologies. It came in eye contact, in respect, in the weight of my own name spoken with purpose for the first time in my life. I wasn't someone's afterthought. I was the authority, and I didn't need anyone's permission to be here. If you've made it this far, I want to tell you something directly, from one invisible kid to another. Being the family scapegoat broke me. It stripped me of my voice, my confidence, and for a while, my will to keep trying. But weirdly, it also set me free. Because once you've lost everything, the approval, the fake love, the illusion of safety, you stop begging for scraps. You start building your own table. That's what I did, brick by painful brick. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the best revenge is building a life so solid they can't destroy it, and they're forced to watch from the sidelines. I don't hate my parents. I don't even think about them much anymore. There's no space for bitterness in a life that's finally full of purpose. They don't get credit for the man I became, but they also don't get access to him. I've outgrown the roles they cast me in, the ATM, the mule, the second choice. Now I'm a business owner, a mentor, a man with boundaries, goals, and peace. They live with the regret. I live with the freedom. I'll never get the childhood I deserved, but I got the future I earned, and in the end, that's a trait I can live with.